I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and you're listening to Hard Knock Life.
Well, it's the NOC in full color. You see me? The Hard Knock Life. Comics, movies, and TV. Yeah. Pop culture.
Welcome to Hard Knock Life. I'm Keith Chow.
I'm Brittany Monet.
Hi, I'm Dominic Ma.
Let's just get to it. We're going to talk about the Oscars because that was the wildest Oscar show I have ever seen. It tops the Moonlight La La Land fiasco. Like when people do the montage of like memorable Oscar moments, last night's show will be number one.
Yeah, that escalated quickly and de-escalated, which is what we like to see.
That was the craziest part. But let's get to it. If you haven't paid attention, if you were living under a rock, no pun intended, for the last 24 hours, the 2022 Oscars happened on Sunday. It went pretty much as expected in terms of like wins, all the things that expected to win won, except Lin-Manuel Miranda did not get his EGOT. That was the thing I was most angry about going into the second half of the show.
I thought he was a lock, but then I realized it is the last James Bond movie in the sense of the Daniel Craig arc, maybe sentimentality.
Yeah, Billie Eilish and her brother Phineas won for No Time to Die. This, I was actually thinking Lynn's EGOT is a result of the pandemic because that movie was supposed to come out 2 fucking years ago. And had No Time to Die come out when it was supposed to, it would have cleared the runway.
Yeah.
The thing too is that Disney nominated the wrong song because I think at the time no one knew Bruno was going to be this phenomenon it's such a big song.
Yeah, I know that they always try to go more for the emotional core song of the movie.
Indeed.
And I want it because I tweeted that I think, Bruno's better song. I do think that, the song is very beautiful, but it just it's not as fun and catchy to listen to. I feel as Bruno. That's all. I don't want people to think that I'm like hating on.
No, not at all. I mean, it was probably like, because the thing that people don't also understand necessarily is that the studio is what decides which song they're going to submit. And instead of submitting a whole slate of songs, they're like, well, this is the most, Oscar baity song that we have. It's this emotional ballad. Let's nominate that one. Again, remember when Encanto came out in November, it wasn't really a hit. Like, people didn't talk about that movie. We don't talk about Encanto for 2 months. It wasn't until it hit Disney Plus and started streaming that it became this phenomenon because people could watch it on repeat. And then that song just blew up in January of this year, right? Like it took a good 2 months before that song was everywhere. And, the thing is, like, it's such a big song that the Academy was like, well, we still need to perform it. Because normally you only perform the nominated songs. And of course they performed Dos Arigatos in the beginning, but they were like, oh, but we can't not perform. We don't talk about it. So they spent a whole 10-minute sequence in the middle of the show to put on Bruno. The other thing that was controversial about this year's Oscars is, remember, we want to cut it down. We want to make it, very efficient. So we're going to not give out 8 awards during the broadcast so that we have this really tight show. And it still went 3 hours and 45 minutes. Because in place of all of the awards that they didn't give out live on camera, they still actually gave them out. That's the other thing too. Like, they still did here are the nominees and here's their speech. All they cut was walking to the stage, It didn't save any time. So we could have had those awards, and they had all these dumb montages. Like, there was a James Bond montage that I didn't think was necessary. And we'll talk about the fan polls that got airtime.
I cannot believe what got number one. Even though I liked that movie, I can't believe that movie got number one. I was just like, excuse me?
So
this is of internet mobs.
Well, here's right, exactly.
The other nominees, I don't remember, but
so the Academy decided this year, again, in their effort to Steve Buscemi, hey kids, with the skateboard, they decided, well, let's, we can't actually give awards to the popular movies. So let's do a thing where we'll put a fan poll out on Twitter, of all places, hashtag, fan favorite or whatever. And then you'll get a little special thing on the show. You won't actually get Zack Snyder's not getting an Oscar, but whoever wins this fake poll gets a 5-minute thing on the show. And so Army of the Dead won best movie, fan favorite movie of 2021. And Flash Enters the Speed Force won most cheer-worthy moment of 2021. And of course, it was just an excuse for like the Snyder stands to engage their hashtag artillery.
Yeah.
That's what bugged me about it, that it was called the cheer moment, because we discussed cheer moments, here as, the main motivation for going to movies in theaters. And there are a couple significant ones, in Endgame, in some of the Star Wars stuff. And that bit with Flash going into Speed Force, that was not the same vibe. Okay. I understand how Twitter could be mobilized to win that award, but that was not like oh gosh, I'm so glad the power of movies. That was nothing like that.
It's not even the best moment in Justice League.
Yeah.
And I liked Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked the 4-hour cut. But yeah, I didn't think the Flash running into the Speed Force was cheer-worthy.
Yeah, it was clearly supposed to be. It was set up to be like a big Dark Night of the Soul, like turn around moments. But it was just so freaking convoluted. Like, I have to keep running at this speed until Cyborg tells me at exactly the right moment and blah, blah, blah. No, okay.
Yeah.
But perhaps enough said about that.
Well, then the cheer-worthy thing too was, I guess I was under the assumption it was the cheer-worthy moment of 2021. But like the other things on that list were, like you said, Endgame, which came out 4 years ago, Dreamgirls, which came out like 7 years ago, The Matrix came out 20 years ago, right? Like it was like, these are the cheer-worthy moments of all time, I guess. So it was just like, what is the criteria that you're asking? But again, who gives a shit? Why are we even giving it airtime? Because it was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Give out the best score Oscar on the broadcast and save us this bullshit, I guess is what I'm saying. Because Riz Ahmed won a fucking Oscar and he couldn't accept the award live on TV. That pisses me off because Riz Ahmed is like a for real legit star.
Yes.
Did you see that short film, A Long Goodbye? I watched it.
I haven't seen it.
Pretty intense.
It looks really good. Is it available to watch?
I believe it is on YouTube. And I would not put it in the category of fun, but it is very intense and very, very serious stuff.
I'm just happy I can call next time we refer to Riz Ahmed on the Nerds of Color, we can say Academy Award winner, Riz Ahmed. And again, he had to give his fucking speech pre-taped an hour before the show. Before we get to the thing everyone wants to talk about, what did you think of the flow of the show? Do you feel like they achieved what they wanted with their approach to the Oscar side? Because I know, Brittany, you are as big of an Oscar party watcher as I am over the years.
Yeah, I feel like they were trying too hard to appeal to people who don't normally watch the Oscars, and that's the problem. It's like those people who don't normally watch the Oscars are most likely going to continue to keep it that way unless someone they personally know ends up somehow being nominated, or something like it's going to be very rare that they're going to tune in, or they're only going to tune in for the moment that they want to see, and that's it. So I feel like it's stupid to try to cut off the awards. Like you said, Riz Ahmed won something. So it was just like, why?
Or even like usually there's the honorary Oscar, right? And this year it was Denzel Washington presenting it to Sam Jackson. Like that's fucking.
We didn't even see that.
Great TV, right? And then we had no indication that.
Yeah,
it was frustrating. But yeah, so like just from a standpoint, and I think this is a nut they've always tried to crack on the Oscars, is how can we get people who don't watch the Oscars to watch the Oscars? And I agree with Brittany. Fuck them kids. We don't need them to watch the Oscars because it's not for you. If you need a Zack Snyder win on a fucking Twitter poll to watch the Oscars, we don't need you to watch the Oscars.
For me, it's been ingrained into my family. Like we've watched it since I was a baby. It's something that we've always done. So it's like, I feel like unless you have grown up in a family where, movies and TV is kind of essential to like your family, I feel like it's not going to matter to certain people unless they on their own develop a love for film. It's not like it's going to hit for everybody.
And, what's beautiful about like something like that, as much as people shit on the idea of even giving awards for movies and things like that, I think it does, present like it almost kind of curates like, here are 10 movies that you should watch from last
Mhm.
year. You know, and I think you and I do this thing where we're like, okay, let's just watch all the nominated movies, and we make it a point to like seek out movies we wouldn't normally want to see or have the ability to see, but we want to see it because, okay, the Academy deems this worthy, so let's go check it out. And, you know, I wouldn't necessarily have watched Coda if I didn't know it was nominating for an Oscar, right? Because there's a whole shit ton of movies that are on the Apple TV that I'm like, I don't feel like watching. And because it got nominated, I was like, well, let me check it out. And it was, you know, I know a lot of people are complaining that it won the Best Picture Oscar, but I really love that movie. And of all the movies that were nominated, it was my favorite to win, and I'm glad it won. Guess what? Goalie Nutrition is sponsoring Hard Knock Life, and you can go to goalie.com to buy apple cider vinegar gummies, they're ashwagandha gummies, superfruit gummies, and super greens gummies, and you get 10% off plus free shipping if you use the code HARDKNOCK at goalie.com. This is honestly, I've been taking the Goalie gummies now for a couple weeks, and I have to say, they're tasty and they're good for you. Have you guys been enjoying the Goalie gummies?
I really like them. They're yummy, but it's a nice to add to my like routine of already like I normally take just straight vitamin C, so it's nice to have like extra supplements.
For a long time, people have praised the benefits of apple cider vinegar, and you know, as someone who's had to like drink straight apple cider vinegar sometimes when I'm not feeling well, or you know, I have some joint pain, and your mom is like, drink some apple cider vinegar. It's not the most appetizing home remedy, let's just say.
Right.
It tastes horrible.
Like the apple cider part is like, ooh, does it taste like apple cider? And it's like, no, it tastes like vinegar. But ACV is very good for you. And the fact that Goalie has been able to put the ACV into these tasty little gummies made with pectin and fruit peels, which make them vegan, which is cool. So if you're vegan, you can still rock these gummies, because everyone knows gummies are usually made out of like gelatin and nasty shit. These are made out of complete non-GMO, gelatin-free, gluten-free, vegan ingredients, and you can get the benefits, all of the benefits of apple cider vinegar, taking these tasty, delicious, convenient gummies. So go to goalie.com and use the code HARDKNOCK, that's HARDNOC, just like the podcast you're listening to. Get 10% off your purchase of Goalie products and free shipping.
It's a much better delivery device for that apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
These Goalie gummies are great. You get it, and it's a
100.
delicious little candy. And I've been enjoying the super fruits one. I did feel kind of refreshed after taking a few of those.
Yeah, no, but I'm loving them so far, and they're definitely tasty. If you just want tasty gummies, at least just eat them for the yumminess.
Yeah. So go to goalie.com, use the code HARDKNOCK, HARDNOC, get 10% off your purchase and free shipping at goalie.com with the code HARDKNOCK. So we're not here to talk about what won and what did not win. What we're here to talk about is the slap heard around the world when Chris Rock came out to give the Oscar for Best Documentary. And as Chris Rock is wont to do, crack some jokes at the expense of the celebrity sitting in the front row. And he starts off cracking jokes about Penelope Cruz and Javier Bardem.
No, he actually started about Denzel jokes, and he made the egregious mistake of saying Macbeth in a theater.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
You
Right.
do not say, for those who don't know, if you say Macbeth in a theater,
It's cursed.
It's a curse, and you are more likely to have bad things happen to you. And he made that mistake of saying Macbeth.
That's right.
So,
Conjures
I'm sorry,
that
Chris
devil
Rock.
magic.
He did a Training Day joke. I forgot.
King Lear got nothing on me. He said he did say Macbeth, and yeah, it went downhill from him from there.
So anyway, so Chris, he's not there to host. He's not there to give a monologue. He's there to present. And of course, you know, everyone's got their stupid banter before they give out the award. But he goes after, you know, some of the folks that he's, again, supposed to do as a comedian. Where he missteps is that he makes fun of Jada Pinkett Smith's shaved head. And, you know, the funniest thing about that is Will laughs at first. Like when they cut to the reaction, Will is laughing. And then Jada is demonstrably not laughing, but they cut back to Chris, and then you don't see like Will's face deflate. You just see the laugh, and they cut back to Chris, and he's about to give out the award. And then you kind of like see Chris, his face changes, and you see Will comes up on stage, and you're like, oh, this must have been a planned bit where Will confronts Chris Rock for insulting his wife. And then, you know, that Batman Robin meme where Batman slaps Robin.
Yes.
Oh goodness.
This was that meme come to life.
It's weird.
And I'm sure someone's already superimposed Will Smith and Chris Rock's face on that Batman meme. But he slaps Chris, and in real time, I thought, okay, this is part of the bit. I thought it was one of those WWE slaps where like Will stomps on the stage and Chris sells the hit, but like upon review is very much not a fake punch or a fake. People were calling it a punch. It wasn't a punch. It was an open-handed slap.
Yeah.
It was like something out of How I Met Your Mother. You know what I'm saying? It was not. People were acting like he like uppercut Chris Rock. But anyway, on the live broadcast, after that happens, because it's a tape delay, the screen goes blank. I think the screen freezes for like 30 seconds, and they cut the audio.
So they cut the audio of
but you can definitely read Will Smith's lips.
You can't hear what's being kind of said. So if you can't read lips, you have no idea what's happening, basically.
Oh, even if you can't read lips, I'm pretty sure you can tell what Will Smith
you
is
have an
saying.
idea, but you don't know word for word what is being said. But yeah, and then I know like the people in Australia and Japan had like an uncensored version, so they were kind enough to record everything and put it up so you could hear if you did not hear what happened. Yeah.
The best part about the Japanese feed is that there's like a polite lady kind of like translating everything in real time.
Oh my god.
And just having her have to translate Will Smith just smacked the shit out of me is really entertaining.
Yeah, well, the thing is that a lot of people didn't know that Jada actually suffers from alopecia. So I didn't know that. And so in hindsight, making that joke is not okay.
And people are also pointing out, like, Chris Rock did a whole documentary 10 years ago about Black women's hair.
He did. And one of my favorite movies.
And to make that comment, I mean, it was, so, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, my whole thing about this slap, again, it's probably it's going to be the most, if not already, talked about Oscar moment in history. But it's also like a nexus point of every unfortunate hot take generating discourse machine ever, right? Like, it's just from every angle, because stand-up comedians already are under attack, right? First, the First Amendment is under attack. Comedians can't say anything without fear of retribution. And like, this is now going to be like Exhibit A. If a comedian makes some offensive remark, he's being violently assaulted. Like, I think assault is kind of like a overblown. It wasn't an assault. It was like, I've seen worse, fights in a basketball game. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't.
Yeah, I mean,
it wasn't the mouse. It wasn't the mouse at the palace
to like kill or do serious injury to the guy. He's going up there to give him an angry smack and step off. And also, I kind of want to tear apart this idea that was people saying it was scripted in any way. I understand how at the beginning it could look like a scripted bit, but like, it's not. If they're gonna script something, it's gonna be like a musical number, like they're gonna reenact the scene of Independence Day or something. It's not the very idea like that they would script a bit of like basically two black guys tussling over a family issue is like sort of saying like that's entertainment value, and I think that in itself is a little racist. So it's not scripted, but it was also like, I know it's also not the hugest thing in the world, because for me it was kind of like, I think the Oscars are like all pomp and circumstance and a little bit of elitism and like a little bit too buttoned up. So in that sense it was good. I thought it was good to break through that in any way. Oh, well, I mean, on the other hand, should you like smack people for like saying a joke you don't like? No, you shouldn't.
Yeah, but I feel like it's a little different when it's like, it's not like she just has her hair shaved to like, rock a new look. It's because she has alopecia, which means eventually all of her hair follicles will fall out and she won't have hair. So that's a different kind of thing. It would be like it, when people were making fun, when no one knew obviously that Chadwick was going through cancer, when people were like hardcore making fun of his appearance, it's like, and then he had to disable his comments and stuff. And it was like, one, we shouldn't generally be talking too hard on people's looks, but when it's because they're sick and stuff, it's a whole different level, because it's something they really can't control. She can't control her hair falling out when she has alopecia. Chadwick couldn't control his rapid weight loss from cancer. So it's just like, those things are a little different when
Right.
you view it, because then it's becoming, when you're going into ableist territory of like making fun of someone, and that's when it starts becoming like that's not okay.
I mean, speaking of that, just to get off the Will Smith Chris Rock thing for a second, I noticed on Twitter when Liza Minnelli and Lady Gaga came out, a lot of people were like, "This is elder abuse. She's clearly and I thought it was actually a heartwarming moment in real time.
Mm-hmm.
And Liza Minnelli is very old, but she is also a legend. And it was the 50th anniversary of Cabaret, and like it wasn't like unprecedented that a Hollywood legend comes out at the very end to give out Best Picture. I'm not sure if she's suffering from dementia or anything like that, but clearly she wasn't all there. But at the same time, I don't think it was like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I just thought some of the reaction to Liza Minnelli was very similar in the kind of like ageist, ableist kind of like language. At like, it makes me uncomfortable to see Liza Minnelli on stage. But why? Lady Gaga was very respectful. Liza Minnelli seemed, happy to be there. I mean, it's just the same thing. It's like, even if she's like, her faculties aren't 100% there, she was present enough to give the award. You know what I'm saying? Sure, she like stumbled a little bit, but again, Lady Gaga was like, I think she held her hand and said, "I got you." And that was actually really emotional. You know what I mean? Like, so I think, I'm agreeing 100%. Like, sometimes people's conditions, it doesn't mean that just because you're suffering from something that you should just now not be in public. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have Liza Minnelli has every right to be in public. Jada Pinkett has every right to be sitting in the front row at the Oscars and not have to be commented upon. I think at the same time, like, it does, again, rightly or wrongly, it gives the stand-up comedian who feels threatened ammunition to say, see, and even Judd Apatow was like, Will Smith could have murdered him on stage. You know what I mean? And like,
well, that's the shit that is out of control. That is so wrong. That is
ridiculous.
so wrong.
And then someone had said that I think Judd Apatow just admitted that he would die if he got bitch slapped.
Yeah, I mean, let's go back to the crappy joke aspect for a while, because like, it's just, this is a matter of nuance and a debatable thing, but it was a crappy joke on top of a pretty rude one. And by the way, Chris,
right, it wasn't even funny. Its worst offense, it was not funny.
Right, and it was, so that might be like, it was illuminating. It was kind of a appropriate call and response. It was crappy joke and like one hit, one dignified sticking up for your wife. Now that the way that's kind of like old-fashioned macho way to handle it. Like, we really defended our wife's honor by doing this. But on the other hand, it was a very real moment. Like, it was totally real. The only reason, and people maybe thought it was scripted because Chris Rock immediately played it off, which is what he's supposed to do. That was the most professional.
You could tell he was still uncomfortable.
Right, he was still uncomfortable. I mean, he just rocked his way. I mean, I used the wrong word, but he sort of slogged his way to the next moment, even though everyone knew it was really real. I
mean, the way you knew it was real too is that the moment he got hit, you could see Chris, like, he looked like he was about to swing back, and then almost was like, "Oh wait, if I swing back," you can just see him kind of like gear himself up to like hit back.
Something kicked in, and we realized we're on the Oscars. This can't escalate past this. This is going to be just this, and
And I think had that happened, he just slapped him and he said, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me and then moved on. I don't think it would be. I think it was the get my wife's name out your fucking mouth, which and you could see Lupita Nyong'o behind Will Smith going, "Oh," like, well, that was what really
he was charged up.
See, at first, because she was kind of like. And then when he started shouting that's when she went, oh, that's when he knew it wasn't.
Right. I mean, because like, you could play it off as Chris Rock didn't say anything afterwards, and people was like, was that scripted? Was that real? And then like everyone was just being kind of coy about it. I don't think, it would not have been as big a deal. But because Will Smith, the friendliest guy in Hollywood, was like, not only went up on stage and slapped you, but then came back and sat down in his chair and then dropped 2 F-bombs on live television, angrily, right? Like, you could tell he was someone said the West Philly came out. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, I don't think it was that big. People are talking about like this is, like I said, throwing around terms like assault and abuse and all that kind of stuff. And
wanting to walk back his Oscar. Some people are saying he could because of rules of conduct, but then I'm just like, but they gave shit to Roman Polanski,
Harvey
Woody
Weinstein
Allen.
ain't giving his Oscars
Yes,
back.
Harvey Weinstein, like Sean Penn. There's so many abusers and pedophiles in Hollywood that you would have to give back a lot of awards. You can't just like, you know what I mean? Like you can't have come all the smoke for like just Will Smith when all he did was, you know, slap a dude who basically insulted his wife's condition. Like even though maybe, yes, sure, he didn't know about it, but that's what happened. And it's like, you're gonna walk back his Oscar, but what about all the actual people who've done, you know, more serious damage than trying to defend your wife, you know?
I mean, the fact that it was a news story that Chris Rock didn't press charges, just like it's so laughable. Like, what is there to press charges about?
Exactly.
Because
like,
it was a big deal in the sense that disrupted the ceremony of the Oscars, which is the most stuffy, most like, you know, rigid kind of ceremony where everyone's supposed to be beautiful and, you know, light and, you know, so in that sense, because I think it was a real moment that violated the temple, I think it was good overall. I mean, it was good. It was not a good conflict resolution moment, but it was just good because like the Oscars are just like a, you know, a stuffy piece of crap, in my opinion.
Well, and you know, and I think the most unfortunate part of that particular exchange is that it kind of overshadowed which Oscar was given out, and that was the best documentary feature, Summer of Soul, going to Questlove, which was one of the things I was most looking forward to. Is again, just as happy as I was to say Academy Award winner Riz Ahmed, I can now say Academy Award winner Questlove, and you know, and he gave a beautiful speech without actually even acknowledging what happened. I think he was probably like not able to even process like what just happened.
Yeah,
that Summer of Soul is great. That is a great doc.
I wanted to see that, and he felt bad because he was talking about his dad and how he wished his dad could have like been here and all this stuff, and it was just like, damn. Like I feel like most people forgot that he was the one who won at that moment, which is sad. It's
sad, but at the same time, like having Will Smith do that right before made it also the Philliest award of the night. So there we go. Like you got the West Philly and North Philly represented.
Yeah, we haven't even got to the part where he won the award yet. Right?
We did say it.
I mean, that was the thing that made it a whole beautiful story.
Right, because like right after he was like, and here are the nominees.
No, I mean that Will Smith one.
Yeah, which
itself
that's right.
is a huge story.
Yeah.
Brings the whole thing into,
because that's the thing, right? Like that whole, again, it happened during Best Documentary, which happens, you know, like an hour before like the nitty gritty of the broadcast. So you had at least a good 45 minutes of like Will just sitting there like laughing and reacting to everything else in the evening, and you know, again, being the anticipated winner. So everyone knew he's going to win. And what's that speech going to be?
I know. He tried to say just like, you know, Richard Williams, he is a fierce family protector and he tries to move in love. And then he said, you know, Denzel, talk to me like the devil comes for you at your highest moments and stuff like that. And I was just like, he's not going to apologize to Chris. He didn't apologize to Chris, but he apologized to people watching in the Academy.
And he made a joke about like, I hope you invite me back next year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like eventually it'll be fine. And, you know, when people actually realize that, okay, the joke was probably really not okay because she actually has a condition and that's not like, I feel like it's going to be.
But, you know, again, as I said, this whole event was like the nexus of every possible hot take in the discourse machine. And part of that, again, talking about his acceptance speech was, oh, this is example of toxic masculinity. This is example of like the language of abusers, you know, like do we feel that what did it rise to the level that like Will Smith is
No.
outing himself as a toxic abuser?
That might be overanalyzing it a bit.
I feel like it is. I mean, I don't know him personally again, so I can't be like, yeah, he, it's proof. But I just feel like also it's like this weird thing where people automatically see Black people, especially Black men, as very violent. And, so I feel like the fact that he just got up and slapped someone, which they think over a pointless joke, was like, yeah, but it's like, it's a little different when you understand the context of why Jade is actually very upset about the joke, And I think, yeah, Will at first laughed and didn't maybe think in that moment, oh, her alopecia, but then she was very upset about it right away. So it's just like he had to go and do something, because it doesn't look good that he laughed too at her joke. But
I mean that's almost why he like overcorrected, I feel like, because I've been in that situation where like you react a certain way, then you look over at your wife and you realize, ooh, I should not have reacted that way. how do I correct this? Let me go hit that guy.
That's exactly probably what happened. And yeah, I don't know. He's not an abuser, I don't think. I mean, he could be, I don't know, but I don't want to say just on one moment of him trying to defend someone insulting his wife as like, oh yeah, that means he's abusive, dude. I just think, that's what it was. He was just trying to make the moment right, because he literally laughed about it. So
yeah, it was a heat of the moment thing. And I've never been to the Oscars, but I believe if you're sitting there, the champagne might be flowing, so you might be a little bit more loose than
I feel
normal.
like the seating setup was different than usual, because they actually had like kind of like
tables. It was almost like Golden Globes-y in a way.
Yeah, so I feel like maybe actually they might have had drinks and stuff throughout this time's ceremonies, because I feel like before it wasn't like that.
Yeah, I wonder if I think last year was just because of COVID, so there was no theater seating last year, and that was last year was a weird production. This year they were back in the Dolby, but yeah, the first like 6 rows were kind of like taken out, and there were tables for like the big nominees. Although it was wild, like Jane Campion was like sitting like she was like in the bleachers for some reason, even though she was like a director nominee.
They probably moved her because of the stuff she said about.
At least she wrote her speech down this time.
I know.
I mean, speaking of Venus and Serena, I just feel like they just keep getting upstaged all the time. Like no one even remembers the movie he's nominated for. All they're going to talk about is he just hit a guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, you were talking about how this is kind of like the culmination of different forces and like COVID, and we're coming out of that. Like that's another way I read it, was just like something's got to give. Like people have like a lot of pent up energy. Will Smith had his own interesting arc during the COVID times. Remember when he took that famous shot of him just being kind of like, out of shape and flabby in the street, and it was great. It was great.
Well, I mean, speaking of Will, this last year and a half, I guess, the 2 years during the pandemic. I mean, he's definitely like taken a magnifying glass on his personal life. With his memoir, with all. I mean, this is also part of it too. Like all the jokes about like, his wife having affairs, basically. You know what I mean? Like all of that stuff. Because I've seen commentary on Twitter too about like, oh, you let all these dudes smash your wife, but then like one dude makes a joke and then you get mad like that. I mean, I feel like that's probably some toxic masculinity. I don't you know what I'm saying? Like,
and I'm not even saying all those things are related. I'm just saying all this was for me leading up to. There had to be a moment like this at the Oscars just because something's got to give. And I really like Chris Rock and Will Smith, by the way. I really like both of them as celebrities in our entertainment sphere. So, I do.
And that's the next step, though, right? Yeah. Isn't that the next phase of this, right? Like, there's going to be some sort of like public, either hashing out, or maybe they announce like, Chris Rock's going to be an I Am Legend 2. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's going to be something, I'm sure, that's going to come out of this.
Apparently they already made up after like the.
Well, Diddy said at the gold party, they gotta squash it at the gold party afterwards. So maybe that's what happened.
Anyway, if I'm going to take Diddy's
word. But I do like to say that I'm really happy that Jessica Chastain won Best Actress. I really liked The Eyes of Tammy Faye. She was so great. So was Andrew Garfield. I still think that Andrew Garfield really deserved the win for Tick Tick Boom.
Well, you know,
I did like
especially
Movie.
had he won, maybe we could have avoided all of this. You know.
I don't know,
Oh,
but
come on.
I mean, I
Coulda,
did
shoulda.
really like Will's performance, but I do think Andrew's is just a little bit better. Maybe just because I'm biased and
Yeah, of
just
course.
love Andrew
Well,
Garfield.
and you know, but Andrew got a lot of shine in
Yes.
the ceremony, right? Because
he had 2 or 3 fan moments.
right, he had, so the Spider-Man scene, there were 2 different Spider-Man scenes that popped up in that awful Twitter thing. and also Tick Tick Boom, one thing was like the number 5 fan favorite movie of the year.
Which I voted for that.
Some like wild Johnny Depp movie was like number 2. And again, this is
And I was like, what is this movie?
Yeah, well, here's the thing, right? It's a movie that like barely came out because, you know, Johnny
Uh-huh.
Depp is also toxic, right? Like toxic in the sense that like anything he's in is going to be like no one wants to touch with a 10-foot pole. And I think that movie came out like in Eastern Europe or some shit. But
It's so
the
sad.
2 like fan bases on Twitter in particular that are like going to hashtag bomb any kind of poll you put out is the Snyder stands and the Johnny Depp stands. So like, of course, that was like number 1 and 2 best movies of 2021, Army of the Dead and some
Is it called Memento?
I don't know what the fuck that was. I was like,
And I was just like, what?
It was not Pirates of the Caribbean 8.
so, but yeah, but Andrew was like in 2 of them because he was Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't even know what the other one was, but he was in Tick Tick Boom. And no, I mean the whatever number 3 movie of the year was for the fans, because it was Tick Tick Boom, No Way Home, and then I remember 1 and 2 was Army of the Dead and that weird Johnny Depp movie. I don't know what else was in the top 5.
Wait,
but
what was the other Andrew Garfield moment you were talking about, Brittany? I lost track.
Well, so he was
they-
in Tick Tick Boom, which was, I'm sorry, you go ahead, Britt.
Yeah, so for fan movie, because there was fan movie and then there was fan moment. So for fan movie, Tick Tick Boom got number 5, and then I believe number 3 was Spider-Man No Way Home.
Maybe. I just know
Or
there's a
number
missing one in that 5 that I can't even remember.
So
Okay.
basically they featured every scene they featured though when they were showing Spider-Man No Way Home was with Andrew Garfield. So basically they were like more highlighting Andrew Garfield because
they were kind of de facto admitting he's the best part.
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much.
They could have picked a lot of clips, but they picked the Andrew
they picked
Garfield
every single one where
ones.
you can see Andrew in the moment, or Andrew is involved in the moment, and then you know he was nominated for Best Actor in Tick Tick Boom, and he was in the eyes
Chastain
of,
shouts him out.
and he was in the eyes of Tammy Faye where he plays Jim Baker.
Oh,
and
okay, right on.
Jessica Chastain just said
I
like
didn't
you know
realize that.
how wonderful he was to work with. So I feel like you know everything that Andrew did last year was really great because I saw all 3 of his movies from 2021 and he gave great performances. So I feel like he is the true actor of 2021.
Man,
It was definitely a big year.
that does my Amazing Spider stand-up heart good.
Well, congrats to you guys, because I think the call for bringing back the Andrew Garfield verse is stronger, getting stronger by the day. So who knows? Maybe we will return to that universe. Hell, maybe you can revisit that universe and Jessica Chastain can play MJ in his, because they have such good chemistry. Anyway, before we wrap up on the Oscar talk, were there any other moments that you want to discuss or stood out?
Oh, Meg Thee Stallion's free verse on We Don't Talk About Bruno.
That was
cool.
unexpected.
I
So
loved it.
that was great. I will say though, like the only thing that I didn't understand about the live performance of Bruno was like the most viral part of the song got cut. It's the Dolores and the Dolores part and the, what's the other part? What's the brother's name? I can't remember.
I know you're right.
Camilo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Camilo. The 2 parts of the song that are like super viral are the Dolores part and the Camilo part, right? Like the 7-foot frame rats on, and like they cut it out. I was like, they were even showing all like the TikTok videos on the screen, and it was like, but why'd you cut Dolores out? Anyway, but yeah, that was a cool performance.
I feel like it goes back to her character, how
No,
nobody actually listens to her. And I was like, I feel that's why I feel like I resonate with Dolores so
Oh,
much.
the Easter egg is like she did do that part, but you couldn't hear her because she was
Yes.
whispering off
She's
stage.
whispering. That's what it was.
I actually really enjoyed the In Memoriam this year, and I saw a lot of like, particularly white folk on Twitter, getting really mad that it was such a joyous performance because there's basically a gospel choir came out to sing during the In Memoriam, and like people were just mad, like how disrespectful. Why are they singing and dancing? And it's like
it's
the whiteness just jumped out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Everyone was
I'm
like,
sorry, I missed it.
saying that they'll never let Black people produce the Oscars again because Will Packer produced it, and so they're like, yeah, they're probably never going.
But I thought that was the best In Memoriam I'd ever seen in an award show.
Yeah,
because I loved how like they would, because they dropped all pretenses, because it's always like, don't clap because some people aren't, everyone's equally important, but every year there's always the one actor who gets like a standing ovation or an applause line. Mm-hmm. So they kind of like leaned into it this year. So like it started off with Tyler Perry giving a really heartfelt speech about Sidney Poitier that kicked off the In Memoriam, and then a bunch of names came through with the gospel choir, and then Bill Murray came out to talk about Ivan Reitman, which was really emotional, and then some more names, and then Jamie Lee Curtis came out to talk about Betty White. So it was kind of like they understood that there were some peoples whose deaths are more resonant than others. The only issue I might have taken is that, especially with a year in which West Side Story was nominated, that they didn't have anyone come out to honor Stephen Sondheim. Although I wonder if Lynn was supposed to, but because he didn't come because he had COVID or his wife had COVID, they maybe have cut that, because it just feels like,
that would be very appropriate.
It would be very appropriate to have someone talk about Stephen Sondheim in a year in which West Side Story was nominated.
They could have had Andrew Garfield do the bit, because he literally plays Jonathan Larson, who's like,
that would have been perfect. That would have been perfect.
Of Tick Tick Boom is trying to get Sondheim to listen to his musical and say how great it is. Like that's his whole like crux of the story.
And Tick Tick Boom
and everything.
More Garfield. That was always more Garfield. Yes. And Tick Tick Boom was actually Sondheim's last quote unquote performance in a movie, because he does the answering machine message at the end of the movie. That's actually Stephen Sondheim. That's not Bradley Whitford.
I didn't know that was actually him.
That's actually Stephen Sondheim.
Bradley.
Yeah.
Wow, Bradley did a good job.
I don't know, because like the whole time you think it's Bradley, but apparently Lynn wrote the dialogue for what Stephen Sondheim was supposed to say on the answering machine, and then he ran it by Sondheim to say, does this sound right? And Sondheim rewrote it and said that if he'll read it if Bradley Whitford is unavailable. And then Lynn was like, yeah, he's unavailable, why don't you read it? And so it's his voice on the answering machine at the end of the movie. Wow. So I didn't even think of that. Andrew Garfield should have come out and given a eulogy for Stephen Sondheim. But I mean, especially again, Tick Tick Boom and West Side Story being two very Sondheim focused productions of 2021. It was just weird that they kind of like let his name go by without acknowledging his death the way they acknowledged the others, which again, I mean, totally called for, and it made a perfect sense to have. So I actually enjoy it. I also, speaking of Hamilton and West Side Story, shout out to Ariana DeBose for winning Best Supporting Actress, and also Troy Kotsur for winning Best Supporting Actor. I think those were my favorite speeches of the night, especially Yoo Jin-young handing him the Oscar and then taking it back because she realized, he has to sign his speech.
Yes, that was cute.
And then she's just standing there beaming at him the entire time. That was beautiful.
Well, he really did give such a great performance. If you haven't seen Coda, like I said, highly recommend. My personal movie pick though was Dune, since Tick Tick Boom wasn't in there, but Coda. And look, my thing was, as long as Power of the Dog didn't win, because like that movie was just so boring. And and it's funny because anyone who knows me knows I love time period movies, and I like have no problem with Westerns. And I thought, hey, I'd like this. It's about a boy who is in the West, and he is not like what boys are supposed to be. So I feel like it would have been a story that I would have liked. Like on paper, it sounds like, yeah, this movie's perfect for Britney. It's so boring. I was like, God, I hope this doesn't win.
No idea Jesse Plemons and Kirsten Dunst were married. That was my big
They
take
are?
away from that. Yeah.
You didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Have they been married a while?
Yes.
Oh, no idea.
Yeah, they did Fargo together, and I think that's when they like. I don't know if
Oh.
they were already married when they did Fargo together, or that's when they started dating and got married. But yeah, it's been since they did Fargo, at least.
No clue.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So when they did that whole bit again, totally unnecessary. Amy Schumer does this whole like seat filler bit that took up like 5 minutes. Wanda Sykes did a whole Academy Museum bit that took up like 10 minutes. And I'm like,
That was funny though.
it was funny, but it's like unnecessary if you're going to cut all these awards from the show, right? Like,
Yeah, well,
isn't the point of cutting awards from the show to like
Yeah.
cut down on time? And we had all these unnecessary montages and
well, I do think the seat filler one was more unnecessary. I liked Wanda. I think I liked Wanda's, and that's the difference. I'm like,
Yeah,
Wanda's
maybe.
we can keep. We can take out the feet filler. Like, I get where she was going with it, but I felt like she
or
picked
the
wrong
costumes
people.
that was unnecessary when like Amy Schumer came down in the Spider-Man costume and Regina was in the Tammy fake. I don't know. I was just like, I get it. You gotta have some funny moments, but like, I thought the whole point was to make the show shorter. These
Yeah.
like, why did Tony Hawk and Shaun White do the James Bond thing? Like, that was so weird. Anyway,
Tony Hawk and Shaun White to the James Bond thing?
they came out to introduce the James
sounds
Bond
good to
And
me as a
Kelly
fan.
Slater.
Kelly Slater, yeah, like, but why?
Because they're the top athletes of their thing, and James Bond is like the top action
I guess.
dude.
I mean,
so
'cause,
that's what it was.
Like, I get, Will Packer was trying to like honor the history of movies because there was a lot of cool like reunions, like John Travolta, Sam Jackson, and Uma Thurman came out to present Best Actor to Will Smith. The White Man Can't Jump cast, Rosie Perez, Woody Harrelson, Wesley Snipes came out to present something. I forgot what they even presented.
Mhm.
But like at the cast of Juno, J.K. Simmons, Elliot Page, and Jennifer Garner. So it was like honoring, like reuniting these like casts from
that's
classic
cool.
films. But like, I don't know, it was like why the James Bond thing? It just tripped me out. I also heard somewhere like, I get one of the reasons they did the fan favorite thing was because they wanted to like one make people who wouldn't normally watch the Oscars watch, but also like give the Justice League fan base something to kind of like cling to. And it's like they could have done a montage about superhero movies, like that way you can acknowledge that superhero movies are the biggest genre of
Yeah, the
film.
Army of the Dead is even a superhero.
No, but I
movie,
was
though.
thinking of the Flash thing, right?
Yeah.
Or Spider-Man No Way Home, like that. There was all that hubbub about No Way Home not getting a nomination, even though like those kind of movies just will never be
If they're
nominated.
gonna do a montage, they could have
They
bridged
should
that
just
divide
do
there.
a
I
like.
get you.
They should do a superhero like best
Yeah.
superhero movie award, and then leave it at that instead of like and because every now and then we have a film that's as we know nominated for a foreign film as well as best picture.
I mean, that's where the
So-
animated feature came out of, right? Like it was like, I think Beauty and the Beast was the last animated film to be in the Best Picture nomination, and then they stopped kind of nominating animated movies after that. And they were like, well, you have to acknowledge animated movies, so they created that category. Same thing, I think another way to honor like superhero movies or movies of that sort, like action films, is create a best stunt performer
Yes,
Oscar
they need
or
the
best
best stunts.
stunt
true.
team. So anyway, that's the Oscar talk. Before we wrap, I did want to do a little bit more of Oscar talk, and it's the Oscar Isaac talk, because I want to just reveal that I did see the first 4 episodes of Moon Knight, which comes out this week. Can't really talk about it because there's still review embargo. Swara has our review that will release on Wednesday morning, the day the show comes out. But what I will say is I actually really enjoyed it more than I thought I would, because as Dominic knows, I know zero about Moon Knight except for his moonarangs that he does use.
What are his darts called?
Moonarangs. He calls them moonarangs.
I get that they aren't really darts in they look bigger than darts in the movie. But anyway, I'll give up dying on that still. Go on.
But they don't at least from what the download you gave us, Dominic, I think that this is a wholly their own version of Moon Knight, because there isn't that like he's rich and all that stuff. But without spoiling anything, I will say like I really enjoyed it. I'm not sure why it's a series, because I think it would have been a really dope like 2.5 hour movie. Like give me a Moon Knight movie, and I think it would be really good.
Mhm.
The miniseries, I just, I kind of feel like Marvel's like, we're gonna just do limited series because we can, and not make everything a movie. But Oscar Isaac is great. The British accent, you get used to it after a while. Because it is a little wonky in the trailers, and it kind of stays wonky when he's in his British persona. But no, it's really cool. It's not as like, I know you guys were like hoping it would be kind of on the level of like Daredevil when it comes to like the brutality. It is quite brutal and violent in places, but I think it still leans more into like the standard MCU fight choreography fare. The actress who plays the lead female role, May Calloway, she's great. She's probably my favorite part of the series. And Ethan Hawke is a creepy bad guy, and I wasn't sure going into the show, but he's a very compelling MCU villain. So that's all I'll say. I think you guys are going to really dig it when it comes out on Wednesday.
I don't know if I've said on here, but I've said off air that I have always thought that Ethan Hawke should have been Doctor Strange and that Benedict Cumberbatch should have been Morbius, and the universe said, no, Brittany, you don't get what you want. So,
but what you will get is a Morbius movie that apparently is the worst movie ever made. If you've been seeing any of the advanced reviews of Morbius.
I'm just gonna wait until that's on something to watch for free, because then the director spoiled shit already, and I'm like, what? Why? Like, it's not. I don't know if that was his tactic to get more people to go and watch the movie, but for me, I'm like, no, I'm gonna wait till I can.
Well, and apparently they excise all of the Spider-Man references that were in the trailer. Like, you know how it was like there was a Daily Bugle shot, there's a shot of the Spider-Man poster.
Mm-hmm.
And then speaking of the director, he was like, oh yeah, the Adrian Toomes in the movie, he's the Adrian Toomes from the MCU. And I feel like, one, we need to stop asking like directors and filmmakers about like the nerd minutiae of their films, because I don't think they understand. Like,
yeah, they're not on the same playbook.
Because like when he says Michael Keaton is the Michael Keaton from the Spider-Man movies, like I don't think they understand when you say that to a nerd. Like now all the equations are going in your head. Well, if he's how come he's not a variant and blah 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 blah. And all he means is that like he's the same actor playing the character you saw in that other movie, and now he's in our movie. So come see our movie.
Yes, that's why you have to get rid of all the clickbaits, headlines. So director confirms that they're not confirming any of that shit. They're not saying nerd canon. They're just speaking of the movie that they worked on and the person, the person that happened to be in the movie. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. And with that, we will end and hopefully not slap each other before we end the podcast. Dominic Ma, how can people find you on the internet?
I'm Dominic Ma, DOMMAH on Twitter or Instagram.
Brittany Monet, how can they find you?
You can find me at Hi Brittany Monet on Twitter and Instagram, and then you can check out at Naomi Podcast for the Naomi Podcast, as well as the backlog of the Black Lightning Podcast and the Lituation Room.
You can find me on Twitter at the Real Chow, _real_Chow, and at Real Keith Chow on Instagram. Follow the Nerds of Color at the Nerds of Color, and go to hardknockmedia.com to find this and all the podcasts in the Hard Knock family. Videos are on youtube.com/the Nerds of Color. In fact, check out my recent interview with Batman super producer Michael Uslan on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/the Nerds of Color. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/the Nerds of Color. And until next time, get my wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Wow.
This is the hard knock life, but not the chicken kind, more like the